how Uncle Francis and Auntie Joe have literally been throwing sand on See, you see this? You see this? You see this? You see this evil? You see this abomination? You see this? I die.
Oh my gosh. So guys, this short clip you just watched, or the story I'm about to elaborate, is a typical case of household enemies. You know, I believe most of us here are Christians, and we always pray against household enemies. And some of us haven't really experienced it firsthand. But this story right here is really gonna let you to have a clear knowledge of household enemies. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching me from. If you're brand new here, welcome to True Crime by Irene. So, a couple of days, I think 6 days, or no, I guess last week, I came across this video circulating on the media, precisely on Facebook, where I saw this young lady by name Ifunanya, who came back from the United States of America to rescue her dad from the hands of her wicked uncles and auntie. Guys, this story is so pathetic. As a matter of fact, just listening to this lady narrating how her own dad was being tortured by her siblings is so heart-wrenching. Well, guys, I'm gonna explain all the information I could gather about this particular video circulating online, and I'm gonna analyze and share my opinion in the end about this story. Buckle up, because it's gonna be a long ride. So it is said that Mr. Peter is Ifunanya's dad, the girl you just saw in this video. He is a Nigerian American, and it is said that at about around 2017, Mr. Peter, who has been working in the United States for the past 25 years, decided to retire back home, to stay among among his own kinsmen. However, when he got back home, everything was fine. Like, he was in communication with his daughter. Almost every week. They had a very close relationship. As a matter of fact, Ifunanya is his oldest child. So, actually, he's from Enugu State, and he has this huge mansion in the village. So he decided to, go back to the village, to enjoy his retirement. But it is said that around 2021, Ifunanya could no longer speak with her dad as, frequent as before. Like, they become so distant, and it was not from her end, because each time she tried to reach out to her dad, either her aunt or her uncle, Francis, will pick up the phone and say, "Oh, your dad just stepped out. Maybe you can, call back later." And Ifunanya didn't really, place much emphasis on that. She just believed that, okay, maybe my dad is busy. And life could be very busy abroad. She's working and she has other things to do. So she being busy at work didn't pay much attention to that. But what really played a significant part about her not being able to get her dad on the phone was when she couldn't talk to her dad for about 6 months in a row in 2021. So it is said that in 2020, in the year of 2022, Ifunanya decided to take a week vacation to Nigeria, just to relax and unwind. But I believe her major intention was also to check on her dad, at least to find out, she's a daddy girl and she doesn't understand why their relationship has been distant all this while. So when she got to Nigeria, she decided to spend a week in Lagos with her boyfriend, presumably because it is said that she spent some time with her boyfriend in Lagos. And so towards the end of her vacation, she decided to go to Inuguku village to check on her dad, whom she has not been able to get in touch with constantly. And so when she got home, immediately as she opened the gate, she met her auntie Josephine, I think that's her name, and Uncle Francis. And she was like, "Oh, where is daddy?" But guys, instead of welcoming their brother's daughter, whom they haven't seen for quite some time, they instead pounce on her, attacking her, saying that she's a whore, she sleeps in hotel, trying to come up, try to create an impression that their dad is not interested to see them. They're badly brought up kids and, blah, blah, blah. But even if I'm a whore, don't I need to see my dad, So Ifunanya insisted on seeing her dad, so she put up a fight with him. She didn't let go just like that, She became very persistent and she was even shouting at a point, shouting her dad's name to see if her dad could hear her voice and come downstairs. At a point, she started screaming her own name, and this, you know, started to raise eyebrows, and the villagers ran into the compound to find out what was going on. So when they got there, Ifunanya explained her side of the story, that she's Mr. Peter's daughter and she's just coming from the United States, but her aunt and uncle wouldn't let her to get in to see her dad. And the villagers were like, "No, that's not fair, It's her dad. She has every right. It's an abomination for you to, refuse her from seeing her dad." And so that is when the uncle and aunt, told the villagers that, her dad is not around. He traveled and blah, blah, blah. And Ifunanya said that, "However, let me get into the house first." Of course, it's her dad's house. Even if her dad is not around, she has the right to get in there. And so they decided to call the police. And when the police came there to intervene, the aunt and uncle of Ifunanya insisted that Mr. Peter was not around, and even placed a call over to one of their brothers
in Abuja, and he said, "Oh, Ifunanya, I'm sorry, your dad is with me right here in Abuja. You could even start coming to Abuja right away if you want." And he even said he will call back tomorrow for Ifunanya to speak with.
And if you don't mind, tomorrow you can even talk with him because it's already too late. He's resting and blah, blah, blah. But while this call was going on the loudspeaker, one lady whispered to Ifunanya's ear that, "Don't listen, he's lying, your dad is in there." So after the call, Ifunanya, being the smart girl that she is, she told the police that, "Okay, no problem, my dad is in Anambra, but let's make sure he's not in this house. So after the phone call, Ifunanya told them that, okay, this is my dad's house, right? And I have the right to go in. You all said so. They say, yes, of course. She said, well, we all listen to my uncle, but to be quite sure, let me go in to check if my dad is not around, if he truly is in Anambra State. So they said, okay, no problem. So she was being led into her father's house with some policemen and the youth leader. So when they got to her father's apartment, that was the moment of truth. Guys, what the police and Ifunanya saw was unbelievable. The Mr. Peter who left the United States as a healthy man, walking by himself on both feet, was in a very deplorable state. Like he looked like skeleton. He was lying on the bed. He was looking very malnourished, dry lips. He could barely talk, and he was being covered with leaves like they were doing some incantation as their own way of treatment. So Ifunanya and the youth leader came out to alert the villagers that her dad is actually in that house. Villagers were everybody like, was. So this man was actually in this house, and the brother and sister were saying that he's not there, he's in
Abuja.
Now, guys, mind you, their
Brother in Abuja.
called claiming that he was over there. And this posed a question, like the villagers are like, what are these people up to? Why are they actually preventing this girl from seeing her own dad in his own house? That was the major question. So fast forward, Ifunanya knew that she had a big battle ahead of her because it was being done not on her that for her father's siblings to be keeping him away from her, it means that they were up to no good. So at this point, she's thinking on how to take her dad abroad for proper treatment. So since it was already late, she retired to her hotel in Oka. But before she went, with all that has transpired, she made sure that she hired some youths in the village. She gave them some money and told them to watch over her dad's compound for the night. So the youth, they were quite excited. That's some sort of employment for them. And so they got a lot of drinks to keep them busy for the night, drinks and, some snacks to eat. So they were doing their job. Everything was fine. Not until at the middle of the night, a van came there with some men well armed. They look like, military men. And, they came there and threatened those youths to leave, and that if they don't leave, they are going to gun them down. Mind you, what do the youths have to arm themselves? They just had machetes, clubs, sticks, and so because they were scared for their dear lives, they had to move. But before they left, they had to stay back, to see what was going to transpire. So they saw that van going at the back of Ifunanya's dad's house, and they saw her uncle and her aunt transporting her father into that van. So immediately, these youths placed a call over to Ifunanya, and they told her everything that has transpired and said her dad has been abducted. So early the next morning, the police called Ifunanya to come to the station to, give her statement. So when she got to the station, she met her auntie there also writing her statement. And, Ifunanya started writing her statement, and at a point the auntie was trying to plead with her and saying that, oh, I'm sorry for what happened, but Ifunanya didn't pay any attention to her because why would they treat her in such a way? Even if I was the one, I wouldn't even want to speak to that lady. She's so barbaric. So at this point, some other relatives intervened, some distant relatives. And the place also, which is part of this community, you know, traditionally in most African countries, when family have issue, they would prefer them to solve it at home. So they finally told Ifunanya to try to settle the issue amicably with her relatives. So when they got back to the community, the Onowu, who is a community king, and the youth leaders, they went to the Onowu's house and they tried to ask Ifunaya's side of the story. Ifunanya explained her own side of the story, and mind you, she mentioned that her dad had stroke sometime around 2019 to 2020, and she tried to encourage him to move over to the United States for treatment. However, the dad insisted on receiving treatment in Anambra State. So when she made mention of this case, her auntie said that, oh, they had been, giving him treatment, but there was no proof about that, so the Onu sent her to go get the medical report to show as her evidence that this lady didn't return. And so when they went back there to find out, she was nowhere to be found. And when Ifunanya retired back to her hotel, a few days later, the court had that her dad is back and she could come see her dad, but she turned down their proposal because she felt like they were up to no good. And a few days later, she was being led by the Holy Spirit to go there. When she went there, the aunt was there with a lawyer. However, this didn't stop the police from arresting her because this was a case of kidnap and she was involved. So she was being taken to the police and she still pleaded. And while she was at the police, Ifunanya, with the help of some youths, took her dad to the hospital where she was there for where he was receiving treatment for about 9 days. And during that period, it was difficult for her. She was just sleeping on a little chair in the hospital, you know, trying to make sure that her dad could get some strength in order to get on, to permit him to get on the flight. So while she was there, she was still scared for her dear life because she didn't know what her aunt was up to. So while she was at the hospital, the youths were also there watching over her and her dad. And from time to time, the villagers would bring food for her dad. They were quite supportive and cooperative. So after the period of 9 days when her dad was there, Ifunanya decided to, retire, take the dad to the United States for complete treatment. And that was when she couldn't find her dad's American passport. And her aunt accused her of taking that passport. Guys, this lady is drama. She is a typical example of drama. But that could not stop Ifunanya. Ifunanya took her father's Nigerian passport. And Americans do not joke with their citizens. So probably the dad had some permit to be able to fly over to the States. So Ifunanya successfully, with the help of the community, took transport and they went to the airport to fly her dad out. Mind you, her uncle in Anambra State was so pissed off and one of their other uncles, I think in America, that why did they let her go with her dad? So guys, this is the tragic story of Mr. Peter, who decided to go back home to enjoy his retirement but ended up in a catastrophe. So guys, in my opinion, I feel like these people were actually milking this man of his pension. They were actually, you know, eating his pension and couldn't let him to have control over his finances. At a point, I even think like they are responsible for the stroke that this man had. Imagine somebody has a whooping sum of $5,000 and he could barely receive any good medical care, and his siblings would not let the daughter to even see him. What were they up to? It is even said that they were putting up a new structure in his compound. Where did all that money come from? From his pension, of course. So they were killing this man slowly and milking him off dry from his hard-earned money. Guys, it is really terrible. Be careful about relatives, especially when you've lived abroad. People just see you as an ATM machine. They just want to make you dry. There is no genuine love. They just want to strip you of your hard-earned money. So guys, for those of us who are abroad, be very careful. Well, that doesn't go for every family. Some families are very good, but guys, the same money is the root to all evil. So that's Mr. Peter's unfortunate story. We hope he gets back to his feet. And another thing I want to mention, men, love your children and your wife. Take good care of your wife and your kids because they are the people who truly love you. Really, they are the ones who stand there for you unconditionally. And I really want to applaud this lady for her bravery. So guys, what is your opinion? Comment down below your opinion about this story and if you have had any experience with such relatives. Until then, see you on my next video. Please comment, click the like button, subscribe because your subscription will help me to go a long way. Until then, see you on my next video. Bye bye.